radio show for many, many years, and he joins us here, the Streamcast commentator, author, ran for president, and ran for Senate. He's the original Tea Party member that the Republican establishment tried to destroy in his run for Senate when he tried to take on the establishment. Read his book, Primary Mistake, if you want to hear that whole story. Steve Laffey, good morning, sir.
Jimmy, what a great show. This is great. And a beautiful day the Lord has given us. You're exactly right.
Did you ever think you were going to have to deal with quicksand as an adult? I thought quicksand was going to be a big deal. And they taught us what quicksand was in all the television shows and adventure shows, and I thought quicksand was going to be a big deal. It's not.
It's not. No, not so far. Not so far.
I remember, I don't know if you heard me, I was talking about Fire Prevention Week. They taught us fire prevention and had to have an escape route at your home. So we had a one-story ranch with 3 bedrooms, and I made my parents show which window we were all going to go out if the fire caught. And I thought stop, drop, and roll was going to be a big deal as well. I never had to stop, drop, and roll. Never knew anybody to stop, drop, and roll. So just throw that out there, Steve.
It is true. Think about quicksand. If you ever watched The Lone Ranger, if you ever watched any of those shows growing up, everybody got caught in quicksand.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I'm trying to find quicksand.
Anyway.
I've never known anybody that had to.
J.D. Vance is caught in his own quicksand he can't get out of, but that's another deal. Anyway.
All right, Steve Laffey, my friend, is with us here. Let's dive into a couple of topics, Steve, and looking forward to it. Let's talk about J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, I think one of the European papers said he's the most dangerous man in the world right now. Give me your thoughts. J.D. Vance causing controversy, and I'll let you explain it.
Well, J.D. Vance has destroyed himself. Forget this is something that is so obvious, and I talked about you when he was nominated. He was the worst nominee of all time. He's a sycophant completely for the president, but he doesn't realize that when you're a sycophant, the only time you're not is when you roll out of bed and tell your wife goodbye. Once you walk out that door, you've got to keep to the script. You can't be in an elevator. How many times have I been in an elevator in the Morgan Keegan Tower when I worked there for 9 years and heard someone say something so stupid that I knew they were talking about, recognized them, they're in for a job interview, and they never got the job. Stuff like that. He doesn't realize that when he's on a call, going back to Saturday's call with the signal call that never should have happened. I mean, they don't know how to run a meeting. J.D. Vance is the vice president, I guess the ranking person in the meeting. He didn't call the meeting. You never get on a meeting with 18 people texting that you don't know who they are. Ever. Folks, just so you know, never do it. When you get on a Zoom call, you know who everybody is. So he doesn't know enough not to do this, neither did Peter Hegseth and the other people also. So, and inviting a reporter in inadvertently, but probably showing that Mr. Waltz, the former congressman, actually has some behind the scenes doing. But here's the thing that people aren't talking about. J.D. Vance undermined the president in every comment he made. He said, now let's go through what he said on the call. Because, by the way, it's a call like we're having now. Let's say we're having Thanksgiving dinner or we're having a business meeting about how to grow a radio show. And a guy over in the right-hand corner says, I hate the Jews. Wouldn't your head jerk and say, we're talking about a business to grow a radio program for Jimmy Lakey and how to get it bigger. What are you talking about? Why would they go into talking about Europe? Like, who would do that? Nobody would do this except for these people. So the 4 comments he goes into, he says, number 1, quote, I'm not sure the president knows how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now. He's suggesting that the Yemen operation contradicted Trump's broader foreign policy conflict. It does not. The president, to his credit, is going after Yemen as he contacts Iran, who backs the Houthis, right? He's going after the Houthis. As he tells them, you better dismantle or we're going to destroy your nuclear stuff and we're going to destroy you. It's extraordinarily consistent. Good for the president, right? But J.D. Vance is undermining him in a group of 18 people, and now the whole nation knows, right? Second, he's talking about the potential for a, quote, he highlights, quote, the potential for a significant increase in oil prices resulting from military action. No. He doesn't understand geopolitics. The Houthis are bombing a shipping lane, trying to take out shipping, trying to take out everybody Iran's oil going through the Suez Canal. And when you stop the Houthis and then deal with Iran, you will have lower prices for oil. He either doesn't understand it or is caught in a time warp of hatred for Europeans, right? And by the way, Trump does not hate Europeans. He's doing transactional stuff. I may disagree with it. You've talked about it, the way to handle it, but he's doing transactional stuff that he thinks will help America as he gets Europe to obey different laws or tariffs or whatever it may be. We're not going to discuss that today. 3, the president says, go. We're going to hit these people, and he tells someone to go hit them. There's no need for a meeting, right? There's no need for 18 people to be in a meeting. And so J.D. Vance is advocating for, quote, postponing the operation for a month, end quote, to better communicate its importance and assess the economic situation. These are the Houthis in one of the poorest countries in the world, Jimmy. This is ridiculous that he's even saying this. And 4th, why go off? Vance says, quote, if you think we should do this, let's. I just hate bailing out Europe again because more stuff going directly to Europe in trade goes through the Suez Canal than directly goes to America. But it affects America greatly. I mean, so all of this is complete nonsense. And it goes to why the President Trump, he actually knows this now, Jimmy.
Yeah.
He knows Vance is against him. He knows he made a bad pick. And he's going to throw him under the bus like he always does at some point when it's convenient for him. I think he may assign him to an impossible mission and watch him fail. Much like Biden did with Harris on the border. Go down the border. You're the border czar, right? So Vance is done. Totally done. And discredited now among everybody. And even if you like him, he's totally discredited about a lack of knowledge of everything I just talked about. He's a joke. And so that's what's going to happen to Vance.
Because I saw those comments by Vance, and I said, that's not necessarily the smartest thing to say in a meeting, even if you feel that. You go to your boss. You don't say that with the other employees in the company. You're the right-hand man, and you're probably a bad move by JD. If young people are listening, this is what you don't do. Yeah. When you're in a meeting, and I was the president, Alan Morgan was the CEO, there was never a meeting where I said, I don't think Alan knows what he's talking. I mean, I would go to Alan and say, Alan, I think you're wrong about this. And then when we walked out of the room, he's still the CEO. And even if I thought he was wrong, I walked out and said, here's what we're doing. Yeah. Yeah, and I thought the same thing. And again, sycophant shouldn't happen. Media probably overhyped it. I mean, they ignored Joe Biden releasing his documents but again, shouldn't happen. Mike Waltz says he's going to try to find out who added this person to the text chain and the call. But it shouldn't have happened. Mike Waltz says that he'll figure it out. But again, it's very telling. Should it be true that J.D. Vance said? And as we're speaking, literally as we're speaking, the reporter for the Atlantic paper that put out some stuff is smarter than the people commenting, because he waited for the people to say, literally it just came out. It's right here in front of me. Okay, here it is right here. Heggs has said nobody's texting war plans, and now the reporter put out more stuff where they're actually having war plans. He just put it out now as we're speaking. So he waited for all they had to do was say, we really screwed this up. I'm very sorry. It'll never happen again. By the way, remember that, young people. If you screw up, just say, I'm really sorry, whether it's to your wife or to I screwed this up. Yeah. You watch basketball players make mistakes, and all of them say it's my. 3 people on the floor say, I screwed this up. You pointed yourself. Anyway. I said the same thing about Jasmine Crockett, the representative from Texas. She called Governor Abbott Hot Wheels. It's a no name. Right. I know people that like Abbott that have called him that, so I'm not going to feign some, oh my God, I can't believe she said that. He's been called that before. Her press secretary came out and said she wasn't referring to his wheelchair. She was referring to him putting illegal aliens on buses and trains to ship them out of into New York. And I'm like, well, actually, it's documented that you've used the phrase Hot Wheels before. You've liked it before, even before he was ever shipping people. Just say, hey, we should have said that. We love people in wheelchairs and God bless America. Exactly. And again, they try to spin it and instead of going, we did it, sorry. Right. They never want to own it. But the egos get in the way and they won't stop. But go ahead. Yeah, no, as young people, pay attention. Steve Laffey, you sent me a headline here, the Wall Street Journal. Are Pop-Tarts on the chopping block? You know, I'll let you talk about Bobby Kennedy here, but I found it amazing, and I didn't realize this until the last few years. How many of the foods that we eat in America that they sell in Europe, they to me mostly taste the same, but they're made differently because the Europeans have a different standard of their food and the chemicals they put in there. And for instance, Ritz crackers. I don't think you can buy Ritz crackers because Ritz crackers, which were my favorites, not anymore. Haven't had any in a year since I learned what they're made of. It's basically a chemical compound. Is all the Ritz cracker is. Bobby Kennedy, it's important, but there's other things that I hope Bobby Kennedy. I think this is your point. Can focus on besides red dye. I mean, there's a lot of other things that are
I mean, focus on. The article is one that I heartily support. If indeed, when it comes to food stamps, and you and I haven't talked about food stamps in a long time, but if they can cut out what you can buy with food stamps, because with food stamps today, not to go into, you can buy chocolate bars. It's ridiculous, right? Yeah. So it'd be better to give people food like rice and beans, and it'd be cheaper than to send people food stamps and then let them just get whatever they want. So
Sweeties and ho-hos.
Well, that's what people are buying. And if you've been in a store, even in Fort Collins, you've seen this act. I mean, people have seen this happen. I've seen it my entire life. And of course, my father would never do, we didn't have any money, but he would never have done this. Never sent me with a free lunch, which we qualified for. Never. He just they sent me to school with day-old Wonder Bread, one side mayonnaise, one side French dressing, and called it a sandwich. That's what I got. Oh, one side ketchup. It's actually French dressing. And that's what I called for a sandwich. But this is really big. Everybody's worried about it politically, this and that. But if we can get on the chopping block really bad food for people out of food stamps, I'd be wanting to get rid of food stamps myself, but and just giving people food if they really needed it, right? If we can do that, we can start to make people healthier. Let's face it, a Pop-Tart, which I love, a Fig Newton, which I love, as a treat. I love Pop-Tarts. I'm still waiting for someone to bring back Noodles Romanoff in a box because they don't make it anymore, right? Or how about 1, 2, 3 Jell-O? People don't even know what I'm talking about, but to get rid of this stuff and make it only for real food, if you did it, would really improve the health of people. Because what you see in America, what you don't see in France, is a poorer class working people who may be on food stamps. I don't know what they do in France, but they're really fat. They're really obese. They're really overweight and unhealthy. You don't see that in France. In fact, I've been to Europe so many times. My son's at school there. I'm going there next week, 2 weeks. Long story short, you can eat a lot of food there, and somehow you don't gain weight when you come back.
Yeah.
And there's stuff in our food, without going into it so much detail, that is killing people. And we just pray that, other than red dye and a lot of things, we can just get this stuff out so they stop doing it like they do in Europe. People would be healthier.
Yeah, it is amazing that you don't see the poor classes in other areas that have an obesity problem. I just came back, and God bless all of you in Texas. I don't mean to be offensive, but Texas is a large tribe.
Right.
There's some largeness in Texas, and I'm telling you, you eat well in Texas. There's a lot of good eating in Texas. But I had to stop by a grocery store there, and you saw somebody with a little card. I think that was their EB, whatever the card is. And it was loaded up with sugary drinks
and sugar. Yeah, just crazy.
And like a pack of sandwich meat. That's what they were using their card for at I think it's called the Kroger there in the Texas area. If you drive, which I did one day, from Breckenridge, Colorado, stopped at a hotel with my family and just slept, and they kept driving to Mississippi, and have your wife tell you to go to the Walmart because we needed a crib. This is a long time ago. You go from the skinniest part of the skinniest state. Colorado's the skinniest state. Breckenridge, probably the skinniest people, let's say, up at altitude. And you go to Walmart, Mississippi, you will think you're on a different planet. Yeah. You will.
I mean, I wish I had videotaped sort of the trend like you saw in Texas. We've got to stop this and start making people healthier. If we can do that, the cost level of Medicare, the cost level of Medicaid, which we got to get a lot of people off, obviously, we can take this healthcare cost level down dramatically without even dealing with the stupid hospitals and the overcharging. We can take it down because people will be healthier. This is now trillions of dollars. Forget about this stupid stuff they're working on. This is trillions of dollars over 10 years of people being healthier that we can take out of the system as our deficit is totally out of control.
Steve Laffey, it's always a pleasure, sir. I appreciate you as always. Steve Laffey.
God bless. Great show.
People can still get your book primary.
Yeah, people still do it, and people still actually find me to talk about from my Wikipedia to find me about running for office because of Primary Mistake, the book.
Yeah.
Like people will say, I'm thinking of running for the U.S. Senate. I won't give any names. I read your book. It's like a primer for this. Does that what really happened? Or can I go over this with you? Or someone has them read the book and they call me.
Give the quick synopsis. If folks don't know, I remember before I ever knew you, I remember seeing you on the news because you were challenging.
I'm a successful mayor. We turned around the city. I get ready to run for the U.S. Senate thinking this is going to be great. The Lincoln Chafee is the existing U.S. Senator. He is far to the left of Nancy Pelosi. Far to the left. So, on any issue, he wants young children brought across state lines without their parents' access at 14 to get an abortion. He's totally off the reservation. He hates the Republican Party, and Liddy Dole has me come down there and say they want to support him. I'm like, you don't want to support him. As a Christian, let's not do it. So I am the only elected Republican to run for higher office to be attacked by the National Republican. And it'd be one thing if they preferred conservative senator, whatever. They preferred Lincoln Chafee. And so they defeated me by 3,000 votes when I would have won 75-25 in an election because of a quasi-independent, voting in that state, in Rhode Island, where I'm from. And then Lincoln Chafee proceeded to not just lose the Sheldon White House, giving the Democrats a lifetime seat of a crazy man, right? Politically crazy man, right? Not only that, he did exactly what I said he was going to do. He left the Republican Party, became an independent, became the most unpopular governor in the history of Rhode Island, and then left the independency, became a Democrat, endorsed Barack Obama over Senator McCain, who helped him out. I mean, the whole thing is crazy, and it always was crazy from the Republican Party to do this because we could have won the race. Because if they had left me alone, he never would have beat me. He would have been an independent, and for at least 6 years, I believe, with 39% of the vote, I would have defeated 2 left-wing crazy people politically, and at least for 6 years would have been a vote.
And you had McCain and the brass of the Republican Party out there campaigning against you, and that's the book called Primary Mistake.
Yeah, my primary, the National Republican Party's mistake, a giant mistake, never happened in the history of the party before, according to Craig Shirley, Reagan's biographer, who wrote about me. If you want to read one thing about it, read Ann Coulter's quote, type in right now, they shot the wrong Lincoln Chafee.
There you go. Steve Laffey, SteveLaffey.com. Appreciate you, my friend. God bless. We'll talk
God bless.
Again next week. He joins us every week at the same time. It's a fascinating story. And I remember when I first saw Steve Laffey into the movie out to Colorado, and my buddy Patrick Davis, who helped me with my congressional run back many years ago, was helping Steve Laffey make a political run and got introduced that way, and the rest is history. But a fascinating story. SteveLaffey.com. Primary Mistake is the name of the book if you want to hunt it down somewhere.
And that is true. And I don't mean that these people are literally crazy, but politically, to go back into it, you have to remember it's never happened before. And for people who might be new listeners, I got a copy sitting here. It is funny how people will still find this book, Penguin Books. And it's a funny story how I got a big book contractor about it and find me somehow, either through a friend or somehow, because they're thinking about running for office and they're not establishment people. They're people like me who just believe in doing the right thing.